am live. Let's try this again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, y'all, shifters. How y'all healing? It's day 4, y'all, and I am super excited. Listen, got a little sidetracked here today. Let me get my timer started. Um, so let me tell y'all. Funny that this topic is about perfectionism today because I'm not trying to be perfect with this going live thing. But I am trying to do it right, and do it so that, um, you guys can get something out of it, that it's, a bit organized and things of that nature. But I just got on here, and I plan to do a little earlier today because I have an event this afternoon that I'm going to be attending. So I was like, let me get on here and get this done because I'm a person of my word. Your word is your bond, as the people say. And so I'm doing it earlier. And a few minutes ago, I got on here and there was this like echo background noise. I'm not really sure what that was about or where that was coming from. So I had to log out and start over. One of the things I think is with using StreamYard, there is this you can kind of use the same studio and same link. And because I'm so new to StreamYard, I don't know if I'm doing it right, y'all, but I'm here. Here we are. So a couple things I got to start out with. Yesterday on day 3, I talked about this jar. So I got the jar here today with me. And I had saw a post. I don't know if it was on TikTok or Instagram or somewhere where and people probably have a name for it, but I'm just calling it the joy jar or the happiness jar. And what I've been doing since January, not the new year, because my new year technically started in April. But what I've been doing since January is when something great happens, I'm just writing it on a sticky. And then at the end of the year, and I say the end of the year, but it's probably going to be around November when my family, one of the times they come to join me, and we're just going to go through it and pull out. And it's not just good things that have happened to me, but good things that have happened around me or to people that I know and things of that nature. So just filling the jar up with some positivity. So you can get a jar from any store in your area, got a top on it. I leave it in my living room, and I leave I have a pad of sticky notes and a pen just right there. So then that way I don't have to go looking for everything. I just leave it right. And it's my little thing that I do. So I mentioned that on yesterday, so I wanted to share that with you guys. I feel like it was something else that I told you I was going to share, but y'all can add it in the comments or remind me if need be. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started right away. So the topic is perfectionism. Where is our ticker here? There we go. Perfectionism can keep you stuck instead of moving forward. So when I think about perfectionism, I think about ways that we can break free from that. And y'all know I got my notes over here on the side. This is day 4. It's day 4. So perfectionism can be the productivity killer. What do I mean by that? There are some causes of perfectionism like fear of failure, having high personal standards, and societal pressure. So let me go backwards and talk a little bit about societal pressure and how it relates to perfectionism. So one of the things, and I'm sure you hear many people having this conversation around, what's going on social media, right? So people are looking at social media as a way to measure themselves. And I'm here to tell you that you cannot do that, people. You cannot allow what is going on that you're reading or, watching online to kind of dictate where you are, or let it be a measure of yourself, because half the time when people be not telling the whole truth. That's the first problem. Secondly, you never want to compare yourself to anybody else. I know for sure for myself that I am the measure, right? Like, I want to be my best self. And if, some people are watching me and are like, oh, I want to be like, or I admire, or there are some things that that person does or that she does that I would like to do, that is okay. But when you're, getting up and your days are around, oh my God, I want to, do what this person is doing, or, do what this thing is, that what's happening over here. You definitely want to get yourself out of that mindset, because it's a trap. And we don't want to be in traps when we're working on ourselves. So you want to stay focused. And I want to give you a couple of tips to break away from that. So, you got your pen and paper, your notebook, your journal. Get that. I'm going to give you a second, because I know some people who are just joining in on day 4 might not know this is real information that I want you guys to be able to keep track of. So you got your notepad. So perfectionism, the productivity killer. Causes of perfectionism: fear of failure, having high personal standards, and societal pressure. So I talked a little bit about societal pressure. There's nothing wrong with having high personal standards. And I feel like for myself, I kind of do that. Like, and these are things that I do to myself. Like, I have my to-do list, I have my notebook. I'm like, oh, this little braid is bothering me, y'all. So let me get that together. So I have, my list of things that I want to accomplish every day. And so sometimes I will feel bad about not doing some of those things. And that's my own standard that I set for myself. So what I'm saying is, you can set a high standard for yourself, but don't let that be the barrier to you not like going on to the next thing, because you didn't necessarily get all of these things done. And sometimes that's required, right? It's step A, step B, step C. But there are some times where if you're working on something, you might not have to do B and C to get to D, right? You can go back to those things. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're, making your plans and you're writing all these things out, that you have a standard for yourself, but you also allow yourself some grace in that. Another cause is the fear of failure. And I think we all, hello, everybody, we all have a fear of failure. Let's take a breath in that. Yeah. But the more that you are consistently doing work towards whatever the goal is that you set, that's going to be an easy thing for you to get over, right? And to not just sit in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have in our minds, like, oh my God, what if I'm not successful? What if I don't pass this test? What if they don't like me, right? Those are all real fears. But as long as you're doing the work for yourself, those fears will kind of alleviate themselves, if that makes sense. So I want to give you guys some tips on how to break free from this idea of perfectionism. The first thing is to prioritize progress over perfection. So that's kind of like one of the examples that I was giving. So if you make yourself a to-do list every day and you're knocking the things off of that to-do list, you're doing good, right? Who says as an entrepreneur that you got to get done with all those things in one day? I know for me, I never do. Like, every week I have a to-do list that might have 15 or 20 things on it. Guess what? I might get to about 10 of them. And guess what I do? I move them other 5 or those other 10 to the next week. Because no, we're not doing that. So do that for yourself. Like, don't put that pressure on yourself because it really is you, right? And the commitment is to yourself. So if you're doing that consistently, and every now and again, I might get through all 20 of those things. It's just going to depend on what's going on, in the days, of my week, what's going on. If I'm traveling, if I'm, doing podcasts, workshops, whatever. So all of those things matter. So prioritize progress over perfection. That's number one. Number two is to set limits. It's better done is better than perfect. So again, very similar. Like, for example, if you're like, okay, I want to make sure that I work out 5 times this week. And I'm just using this as an example because nobody necessarily has to do that. But for an example, if you say, I want to work out 5 times this week and you only work out 3, that's a start. We all got to start somewhere. So just think about that. Like, okay, I did it 3 times. And now next week I'm going to try for 4. And at some point I'm going to get up to the 5. I remember a while back, I'm going to have to reshare that post I made about allowing yourself 3 failures a day, right? Because we're human and stuff happens. And so if you're doing that already, you're like, oh, okay, that was one thing I didn't get to finish, or it didn't work out how I thought, and you're going to keep moving. And again, that's allowing yourself that grace in that day as well. The third thing is to allow space for mistakes. Same thing as allowing yourself some failures. That is a part of growth. So I'm going to go over them one more time. Ways to break free from perfectionism. 1, prioritize progress over perfection. Y'all writing this down? Have you subscribed to my channel? Have you liked and shared this with an entrepreneur that you know? Okay. Prioritize progress over perfection. Set time limits. It's better done is better than being perfect. And allow space for mistakes. That is a part of growth. Y'all got that? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. And so my next point that I want to make is about the power of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. So let me tell y'all this as an entrepreneur. Oh my goodness. It'd be some days where I'd be like, Lord Jesus, and I signed up for this because why? I'll be like, why? Why don't I just want to go somewhere and punch a clock? And so here's part of that answer. One, in my career, and I'm gonna get the exact number for y'all, but I'm about 25 years in as an entrepreneur. And one of the things that I realized, like when I'm sharing my story and talking about different things that I've gone through, I have never had a job later in my career, maybe in the early years, but within the 25 years of being an entrepreneur, where I actually punched the clock. I was always like a salaried employee, which typically you don't like punch in and out. And if you do, it's, there's still that leisure of, you can kind of move about as you will. So for me, I've always, for all of these years, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, have had to have my own discipline and structure within myself to be able to do that. They call that like being a self-starter in the workplace, where, nobody's like, oh, you got to be here at this time, but you're getting all of your work done. So for me, there are some days where there things that I have to get done, right? Like I might have to, do a treatment plan for a client, or have a meeting with a case manager for my other business, Hands at Home, or have some Zoom calls or some meetings with some clients or whatever it is. And there are some days where I can't get away from those things. But there are also some days where when I can't get away from those things and I don't feel like doing it, I'm still sometimes have to push myself. And then there are on occasion where it's just like, if this can be pushed over to the next day or the next week, I'm going to do that for the sake of my own sanity, right? So showing up, and then also being communicative, right? One of the things that I encourage people to do, especially is it the millennials, honey, that be cutting up? Time etiquette, responding. For example, if somebody sends you an email, respond back to the email. Even if you're not fully ready to respond, you could say, hey, oh, I know what I was going to talk about, Chat GPT. Let me write that down so I can remember to do that. But, you can say like, hey, I don't have all the answers for you right now. Please give me 24, 48 hours and I will get back to you. Which is kind of has been the standard rule. I haven't been in the corporate workspace, so I'll have to ask some of my corporate buddies about that. Like, is that still the norm where if somebody sends you a message, you need to respond within 24 to 48 hours? And when I say about being communicative, that's just being professional and being and having business etiquette, right? Somebody sends you a message, you want to be responding to them in a reasonable time frame, right? Even a text message now with some of the access that we have on like text messaging. I know I have an iPhone. I got some Android friends. It's okay. But I know with my iPhone, one of the things that I'll do, like if I'm thinking about something, I'm like, oh my God, it might be late. I can put it in a message and have that message text that person like the next morning or the next afternoon. And one of the things that I'm very specific on when I do that is, for example, if I feel like it's urgent and I want to catch them right away in the morning, but also I have to think about what I have going on, right? So for example, I might send a message to text someone at 10:15 in the morning because I know I have a 8 and a 9 o'clock meeting. So if they respond right away at 10:15, I'm going to be available to get that message. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't put the message to send it out to them too early because then I'm going to be in a meeting and I won't be able to go back and forth, which is another thing that I think we have to consider. Cell phones and texting and all of that has made everybody so available that we as entrepreneurs and just as people in general, that we feel some obligation to having to respond to people. And guess what? The people can wait. When I'm working with clients and doing consultations, I'm saying like we have to find that balance for ourselves in our own time and what we're able to give and offer. And if we're always available, that means we're always on, which is not necessarily a good thing. So when I'm speaking to showing up, we got to make sure that we're allowing ourselves some space, right, to show up our best selves, which means that we have to have some limits and some boundaries. And I'll definitely be getting into more of that as well. But some takeaways that I want you to think about when we think about the power of showing up, even when you don't feel like it, and I will post these up, is consistency builds confidence. So the more consistent you are, the more confident you will be. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. And this is related to, my previous topic of perfectionism. So I'm really trying to tie all of these things in. Showing up. Perfectionism isn't the goal, progress is. And thirdly, the hardest step is usually the most important one. The hardest step is usually the most important one. And I'll speak to that for me and like doing this 21 days. Let me tell y'all, I have gone back and forth. I've thought about like what time, like trying to get all these things into play. And so one of the things that I told myself is that it's not going to have to be perfect, right? As long as I'm showing up, long as you guys are engaging, that's half of the battle. Me showing up is the first half, right? And if I'm showing up consistently, y'all gonna be like, okay, she gonna come over here every day and give us 3. to 6 tips on something related to entrepreneurship and mental health. And you can guarantee that that is my goal to do that. Um, so I think because that was a challenge for me, now it's becoming more like easy, I guess. Like it's becoming where actually I was excited and eager to get on here today. Um one because I had to do it earlier, and two because I'm getting a lot of good feedback, like the information is helpful. So just remember to take that step, right? Um if you are thinking about whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, one of the points that I was wanting to make is that I know for sure when things seem a little bit more challenging, like, is this going to work? That is the time where you really need to go ahead and push through, right? Because I've been working on a lot of different things. And for me, I'm like, man, is this really going how I want it to go? Am I really, getting the feedback that I need? And for me, my spirit and when I'm journaling and all the things is telling me to keep going. Like somebody's going to get this information. It's getting to where it needs to be. And whether it is one person or 1,000 people, I know that my efforts are being considered and taken seriously. Yeah, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. So remember the 3 points we have on perfectionism. Um, can keep you stuck instead of moving forward. So I'm going to share those one more time. Ways to break free from perfectionism: to prioritize progress over perfection, set time limits, done is better than being perfect, and allow space for mistakes because they're a part of your growth. And my second message on the power of showing up. And remember, you're showing up for yourself, even though, yes, you're showing up for other people. At the end of the day, it really is for you, even when you don't feel like it. So, having consistency builds confidence. Perfection isn't always the goal, progress is. And the hardest step is usually the most important. Remember, the shift is happening now. Hey guys.